1 week season.
OWS fam, the nation, my dudes and dudettes. Welcome to Searching for Ceiling, presented by 1 week season and Sharp Football Analysis. Before we begin, the happiest of holidays from our fam to yours. We truly, sincerely appreciate y'all hanging out with us on Fridays. And I know Rich echoes those sentiments. So without further ado, we'll bring him right in, the great Mr. Rich Hribar. How are we on this post-Thanksgiving food-induced loss of consciousness day?
Yeah, a little slow out of the blocks this morning. Watching. I feel like Lamar Jackson played last night a little bit, but it was a fun holiday, man. A good slate of games, and unfortunately, the NFL loaded up all the games on
Yes.
Thursday and Sunday. We're gonna be needed to searching for some ceiling here, baby.
Yeah, that moniker of searching for ceiling takes on a new level of meaning on a slate like this, where the highest game total is 46.5. We are seeing, we're like, where do we go for ceiling? And we were talking before we jumped on here. An interesting theoretical perspective to have on a slate like this is there's a potential for the field to just really, like even more so than we've seen up to this point in the season, really lean into projections. Continuing that theoretical thought, like, does that mean that we see a lower emphasis on game environment bets, on team environment bets, making those carry a little bit more EV for any game that does have something fluky happen? Interesting rabbit hole to go down. So let's kind of continue that discussion and search for, are there any places where we could see a game environment overperform expectations? If not, are there any spots for teams to overperform expectations? Now, with that discussion, Rich, do you see any spots? We'll start with game environments that a game environment could take on that magical, like, had to have it stance for us here.
There are a couple when you kind of look at it. I think when you look at the early slate, we've got a couple spots and they're gross. Don't get me wrong. It's like we kind of lead in here, but we've got like the Texans and Colts indoors. I think Jags at Titans could be potentially interesting. You got kind of Saints at Dolphins, Falcons at Jets. Like these are gross games, but these are games where they're equally kind of matched teams. And when you kind of have that, like it could still just lead into a good game environment on accident. So there may be some things we could work through here. I mean, is there a certain one that you want to start at that is tickling your fancy here?
There's actually one that you didn't mention that I think carries some
Okay, yeah.
interesting upside here, but it's primarily with one team, and that's the Texans and the Colts. We have this game where, like, if everyone's healthy, if we just look at this game from a macro perspective, it's like, well, the Colts probably have a good chance of controlling the game environment. But on the other side, we have CJ Stroud coming back, which may or may not be a good thing for us, right? I mean, we've seen Davis Mills play some pretty inspired football. But like the big thing here is Daniel Jones' leg injury. Like we had clips emerge from practice yesterday that were not inspiring, and the dude is not moving well. I think the report is that he has a stress fracture. That's a fun word.
Yeah.
To his fibula. So I mean, and he's going to try and play through it. Like, how effective and efficient do we think that a Daniel Jones with injury-led offense can be against this vaunted Houston defense? And then continuing that thought, like, do we see the Texans actually get to control a game, which they haven't really done up to this point in the season at great frequency? So I'm a little interested in talking about this Texans team. How are you seeing things play out here?
Yeah, I think that there's some interest here, potentially for, Stroud coming back, and there could even be, some upside for them in this offense. I mean, the Colts are a team that hasn't gotten a lot of pressure this year. Their pressure rate's actually dropped since DeForest Buckner has been out, but they've also like started to play a lot of man coverage since the addition of Sauce Gardner. And then obviously they got, Travarius Ward back, and it looks like he had a little bit of an injury scare again as first came back, but looks like he's going to be up last week. But they've gone really kind of man heavy these past two games since they've acquired Sauce Gardner. And, it's just you only need a couple plays for a guy like Nico Collins to win. We've seen Jaden Higgins have his role extended. He's kind of like a cheapie. He's got a touchdown in 3 of his past 4 games. So there is a chance. It's indoors. Like there's a chance for this game to at least provide like an opportunity for this game. There's star power here, and we could get some points at least.
I like how I asked you if there were any spots that you thought, and you named a bunch, and then I was like, we're gonna talk about this other one real quick.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
But yeah, and then you start digging into the recent trends from these teams, like you mentioned. The Colts have been a lot more man heavy, and that when they're in zone, they're still playing a buttload of cover three. You look at the splits, and it's like it kind of has to be Nico Collins here, right? Are you interested in the upside that he brings at a kind of middling price here at 6,700?
Yeah, he's like I said, he's probably going to see a lot of man coverage, and that always gives you an opportunity to kind of hit some big plays. Like this is a guy that can win regardless. So if he even sees like some sauce, but obviously input volatility is 100% in play here for both these teams. You got the Daniel Jones injury, you got the Houston defense, you got Sauce Gardner on, Nico Collins. Like I said, with wide open range of outcomes kind of in this game,
Yeah.
which kind of makes it fun for like a single entry. You just like stack it up, and if it doesn't get there, you close the laptop type environment. But not a game like where you would go and like lean into in terms of like go crazy on like ownership.
Right. So let's talk about some of the games that you mentioned now. The one that piqued my fancy the most, I think, is that Jacksonville, Tennessee. We were talking before we jumped on here, and you mentioned that you did not even you completely scrapped your game stack right up for this week, right? Because there was one game on it. This was that game for you.
Yeah, it was.
Talk to me about what you're seeing here.
Yeah, this game was one kind of that I'm drawn to in terms of potentially even stacking up or making your kind of cheaper stacks to kind of get you to your big plays in your tournament. The Jaguars are really Jekyll and Hyde home road defense this year. They've been significantly worse on the road all season. They are a pass funnel, which is consistent wherever they go. And we've got kind of Cam Ward playing better football since the firing of Brian Callahan. So I kind of like when I leaned into kind of where projections were on the slate in terms of pricing. I mean, it's gross, but Cam Ward was showing up, and like that just gives you context for the slate in general. But he is super cheap. We actually have a stacking partner, which we'll get to him too. We have a clear correlation bring back in Travis Etienne. And it's just like, wow, you can like start here and build out your rosters and get a Devon Achane in your lineup, get to a Puka Nacua in your lineup against the Carolina defense that's missing two secondary pieces. And you look at, since firing of Brian Callahan, Cam Ward has completed 64.5% of his passes. That's 16th in the NFL. He's not lighting the world on fire, but he literally went from dead last in the NFL to middle. It's a significant jump.
Right.
He's averaging 221.8 passing yards per game. Over the past 5 weeks since that firing, which again is only 16th, but he was 30th in yards per game before. So, and we've seen the Titans do two things. They've one, just let him play. The past two games, they actually have a 5% and 2% pass rate over expectation. And he's running more. They've encouraged his running. He has an 8.5% scramble rate the past 2 weeks. He had a 3.2% prior. And keep this in mind now, his two highest scoring weeks of the season have come these past 2 weeks with a little bit of rushing, and they've come against the Texans and the Seahawks. While he's not been impressive, and I would say like it's not just all matchup induced, he has now faced the Broncos, the Rams, the Texans twice, the Colts twice, the Cardinals when they were good, the Patriots, the Chargers, and the Seahawks. He's faced 7 top 10 defenses.
Wait, the Cardinals were good?
They at one point they were good. So 7 top 10 defenses. He's now facing the worst defense he's faced all year. Again, that's been significantly worse on the road. They're 26th, the Jaguars are, in passing points allowed per game. So, and they face 38 pass attempts per game. They've allowed over 20 fantasy points to guys like Davis Mills, Geno Smith. 2025 Geno Smith threw 4 passing touchdowns at home against the Jaguars. That happened. Now, there's some volatility here, obviously, but I think when you start with a guy like Cam Ward at his price on this wide open slate, and we'll get to talk about like the quarterback slate in general, like we only have Josh Allen as like the put it out of reach guy. I think he becomes kind of on the table in this spot.
And how often do we expect the Steelers to push Josh Allen into super Josh mode? That is up for debate. So are there really no quarterbacks on this slate that can really put the slate out of reach? Obviously, Josh Allen is within that, but his chances, I think, here against a Pittsburgh Steelers team that does not necessarily push game environments is probably lower than it is in other spots. So that brings in, the potential for these pay down guys. I'm not going to push back on Cam Ward at all. You mentioned talking about his stacking partner. Is it really only Chimere Dike, or you have interest in other players here?
Definitely DK stands out. So since the coaching changes and obviously the absence of Calvin Ridley overlaps this as well. I mean, DK's now, he has 3 top 20 scoring weeks over his past 5 games. And remind you, one of those he left after 16 snaps.
Yeah.
He leads the team in receptions and receiving yards. He's over 90% route participation in all his games. Also, he leads the team with 9 red zone targets. He's the wide receiver 6 on the season in red zone target share. Now, asterisk this because they don't get to the red zone very often.
Yeah.
It's a 9 total. He has 9 red zone targets, but it's kind of like those early splits we saw at Troy Franklin before the signal was. It's like, oh wow, they're really utilizing this guy whenever they have the opportunity to get down there. Now people are all on the Troy Franklin stuff that's happened, but. So he stands out as price. Like, I mean, Cam Ward, DK, very cheap starting block stack. I do think you can also, it's not clear, but if you wanted to mix either tight end in play, I think you could. It's just not clear because they're splitting. It's been like kind of a 50-50 split with Helm and Okonkwo. But this is a matchup against the Jaguars that do offer a lot of, avenues for either one of these tight ends to have a good game. I mean, tight ends have scored 25% of the fantasy points against Jacksonville. That's the 3rd highest. They allowed just under 7 receptions per game and 7 touchdowns on the season, which is 2nd highest. So, I don't know how often I would go to like Ward plus DK plus an Okonkwo or Helm, but obviously you have the clear one stack, and then you have the ETN correlation. And I do think the Jaguar side is in play here as well. I mean, I know it's always gross to play Trevor Lawrence, but like he is scoring fantasy points. They're not pretty. They're not Bach games you want to watch. Like he last week was he played terrible in that Arizona game, and he still found a way to throw 3 passing touchdowns and get points. Since week 5, he's the QB9 in points per game. And he's been the only lower than the QB 14 in weekly scoring in one of those past 7 games. And that was against the Texans. So Titans are not a team that we're scared of defensively too. So like this game does offer, I think, both sides to kind of have some guys that are in good spots. So it's gross. The only thing hands off, I would say, are the Titans running backs.
We do have some interesting splits post the Jacksonville bye. This team has had 2 of their highest rush rate over expectation games since that bye. Do you make anything of the recent kind of re-emphasis, we'll say, on the backfield work here?
Yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence is not running the system Liam Cohen wants to run, and he's removing the football from Trevor Lawrence's hands as much as possible if he can. And no matter even if you think like an explosion is going to happen at some point or not, like ETN still has 27, 18, 19, and 18 touches since the bye. Like that type of volume will play here against this Titans defense, right? Like, so that's why I say like you have the very clear, I think just if you want to play Ward, DK and ETN, I think that's just a clear starting block.
Right. Also, an interesting note on this slate is like we're seeing some mega chalk develop. We're looking like we're going to see Devon Achane and then Breece Hall over with the Jets at home against a battered Falcons team. Going to soak up a ton of ownership. I ask you this. We still have Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey on this slate. Of the 2, does either stick out more to you as a potential pay-up option outside of Achane?
Yeah, it's real tough. I mean, we've got this, like you said, the Texans Colts game. We didn't really get into the weeds on Jonathan Taylor, but you would assume they're going to try to run the ball a little bit more. This is a team, if you look at the Colts, the way they've tried to operate this year is pass to get ahead, Jonathan Taylor to put it away. But now we kind of have this injury to Daniel Jones. How does that change things against his pass rush? It is a good run defense, but we have seen them give up, some explosive. James Cook just ran for over 100 yards against them. They also gave up over 100 total yards like earlier season to a guy like Bucky Irving. We also know Jonathan Taylor can have just a big play at any point against anyone. It doesn't matter. We saw him be really good against the Broncos. So I think lean Taylor just. So the one thing that scares me about this 49ers game is you're getting Brock Purdy in like an outdoor like precipitation game. Yeah. And one, he's like kind of has like going back to college, like really wonky splits, like playing like outdoors in weather in ugly conditions. And Jim Schwartz is low key kind of owned Kyle Shanahan. Like,
yeah, that's been a fun one, dude.
Kyle Shanahan very, very much has the upper hand against a lot of coordinators, but Jim Schwartz's teams are 6-1 against Kyle Shanahan as a coordinator or head coach, 3-0 since Shanahan joined the 49ers. We also almost had this exact scenario play out the last time Jim Schwartz faced Kyle Shanahan, where Brock Purdy was in Cleveland in the rain on the road, and it was probably one of the worst games of his career in that game. So I think CMC is an interesting piece because he can catch a lot of passes, like an outdoor weather game. But we know like the Browns are a team that they're hard to run on in general. And they're better at home. Like this defense has been way better at home too. So CMC has always been a guy. You always ask yourself the question with CMC: is he going to be the RB1 or the RB1? And
Right.
all of his the RB1 games have come when he's been able to marry his receiving production with rushing his best rushing outputs. Like those are the games where he's had the 30 plus fantasy points on DraftKings. And is this a spot where you can objectively say he's going to run with efficiency here? I think it's hard to make that argument.
Right. 100%. I'm with you kind of lockstep on that analysis. Let's shift gears here. We kind of teased a little bit Josh Allen, and I think we kind of did it a little bit of a disservice. Is this a potential spot where we saw a couple weeks ago, it was Sean Tucker driving Josh Allen into super Josh mode? We know we have a split backfield here with Kenneth Gainwell, with Jaylen Warren, but we also have two backs that are explosive. Jaylen Warren, if you look at the charts of like evaded tackles versus like EPA per carry, like he's in the top right corner. He's one of the most efficient per touch backs in the league. And then you add the kind of explosiveness, which Kenneth Gainwell, we've kind of see it mostly through the air this season, but they are giving him red zone work. Is this a situation where we can kind of say like, if Josh Allen is forced to super Josh mode, it is likeliest to come from one of these two guys, and we can just like play them with Josh Allen? Is that a potential path to ceiling here for you?
I believe so. Let's start with the Pittsburgh backfield. I think Jaylen Warren at sub single digit percentage projected ownership is very intriguing. For one, it's just we know the Buffalo Bills stuff, right? Like people can look at like the points allowed and stuff and say get to Bills, but particularly under the hood in this matchup, there's a pretty strong signal for this Pittsburgh running back because what the Bills are bad at are defending runs from heavier sets, which makes sense because what does Sean McDermott typically want to do? He wants to play like that base big nickel defense.
Yeah.
The Bills play nickel on 63% of opponent rushing plays. That's the 10th highest rate in the league. Here's the kicker, though. They play base nickel 45% of the time, the 8th highest rate against 12 and 13 personnel runs. And against those 12 and 13 personnel runs, the Buffalo Bills are allowing 6.7 yards per carry to running backs. And we're not talking about a small sample. They faced 95 of these backfield runs, the sixth most in the NFL. Well, guess what? Guess what? They're going to get a lot of tight end play this week because the Steelers are third in rushing plays out of 13 personnel. They are 16th in rate of runs out of 12 personnel. Jaylen Warren is 12th in the league with 66 rushes out of 12 and 13 personnel. So he is more of a tournament play for me because he's really just lost the receiving role. It's funny. He flipped from he's in the Najee Harris role now. And Kenneth Gainwell is in the old Jaylen Warren role. How the tides have turned. He's not catching any passes and he's not playing any passing down. So I think he's more of a tournament play. You need touchdown from him, I think specifically. But I do think under the hood, like that's a pretty positive signal that you're going to get a lot of Darnell Washington, Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith runs with him on the field. And one wild card we have in play too is that it looks like both tackles for the Bills are going to miss this game, which you don't feel good about against because the Steelers are a Jekyll Hyde pass rush, and their whole bag this year has just been, did the Steelers pressure you on this play? If they did, you probably did not have success. If the Steelers did not pressure you, you probably cooked them and carved them up.
Right.
So it is interesting because we don't have any guys on this. Like Jalen Hurts playing today after we record the show. All the good quarterbacks played yesterday. He's the one quarterback when you look at it that, and I don't want to ignore him because if he does have a 30-point game, like he could run away with it.
Right. And we also have the potential of Dalton Kincaid coming back. He practiced for the first time since injuring his hamstring yesterday. It was in a limited fashion. But if he comes back, you look at the schematic matchup, he's very clearly the top expected producer through the air for this Bills team. Would he be an interesting stacking partner for you with Josh Allen if he makes it back on the field, knowing that he's coming off of an extended absence with that hamstring?
I still think so if he's up, because he's already a guy that you're not necessarily worried about like any snap reduction, because he already only plays like
Right.
55% of the dropbacks. So I assume that he wouldn't even have like that big of like a drop when you look at just pure route participation. And he's their best wide receiver this year. And I call him wide receiver because that's what he is. I mean,
Right.
this guy doesn't play in line. He has 200-yard receiving games this season, and the Steelers are 26th in points allowed per target to tight ends, 28th in touchdown rate. So if he's up, he does become a stacking partner. You don't necessarily have to force a stack with Josh Allen ever, but he would be the one guy I would at least be entertained to put on Josh Allen rosters.
And then the final question here, we didn't mention, I mentioned him in passing a little bit when we were talking about the Steelers backfield, but Kenneth Gainwell at $1,000 cheaper in salary than Jaylen Warren. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, he's more of a guy like you. He's tougher to garner the usage he'll have, because we had 2 weeks ago, Warren left the game. And then last week he had the explosive on the tush push variation, which I think it's really cool that teams are starting to get into the bag on. It's too, Mark Andrews had that long touchdown run 2 weeks ago. And then, Kenneth Gainwell, he scored on the play and it got called back. He was, rolled down at the one, but that 55-yarder came on there. But on this particular slate, I would have no pushback on it. To be honest, I really wouldn't, like, for a guy like just to take a cheapy flyer, because they utilize in the red zone. He's played 40 third downs now over the past month to 10 for Jaylen Warren. He has at least 5 targets in 3 of his past 4 games. And he's run a route in 60% of the dropbacks, which is the RB10 over the past month. And he also has he's also on the season, the RB4 in target rate per route run. So they're utilizing. So I don't really have a strong pushback. And I do think both Pittsburgh backs, you do need touchdowns from these guys, which is always tough to guess. But that's why I say I think they're more tournament plays. But I do think that both guys are in play.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at the slate, it's like everybody is on like a tournament only type play. So it just at least piqued my fancy a little bit there.
Yeah.
Like one of these members of this backfield, of this Steelers backfield, kind of pushing Josh into that super Josh mode, which again, you mentioned on this slate could mean a whole heck of a lot for us. What other game did you mention earlier? Did you mention the Chargers?
I didn't, but we can talk about that one too.
Let's talk about that one, and then I'll throw it back to you for another game that you mentioned here.
Yeah.
We've kind of seen this kind of ebbing and flowing with this Chargers team, and I think a lot of it depends on pressure rate that Justin Herbert is seeing. I mean, we've seen the splits with and without Joe Alt on the field. We know that he is going to be out, but on the other side, we have a Raiders team that is near the end of the league or the bottom of the league in pressure rate. So do you think this is a spot where Justin Herbert can finally get this pass game going on an offense that we know is likely to be without Marion Hampton still? What are your thoughts here?
It's interesting. At first, I thought, we might get to like where Herbert was like going to be on the board, but I think he's more of just like you would call him like the old typical, I think, cash gameplay kind of. If you couldn't afford Matthew Stafford, because I don't know what kind of ceiling he has without the Joe Alt injury and with just the way Geno Smith is playing football, and if they end up getting pushed. So you talk about the splits, like, but he's so the way they've kind of manufactured being able to pass protect better is just Herbert's throwing shorter and quicker.
Right.
He's averaging almost 3 fewer air yards per pass attempt with Joe Alt off the field than on, just getting rid of the ball quicker. And in the 4 games now that Joe Alt has missed, Herbert has been the QB 23, 14.6 PPR point. I should call them DK points, not PPR points.
Yeah.
QB 14, 18.8, QB 17, 14.7, and then that disaster 3.3 game again in Jacksonville. So like I keep looking at him, I'm just like, well, they can manufacture efficiency, but like, are we ever going to get like 30-point games out of Herbert at this point? And are the Raiders going to be the team to push them into like a 30-point Herbert game if we could even get it? There is an opportunity for explosives if we want to take the shots, if we can get some air yards. We know what Patrick Graham does. Static cover 3. You're going to get single high against them. And the big signal for the single high guys have been, I know no one likes Quentin Johnston, but he is the big signal, Quentin Johnston. He averages over 2 yards per out run against cover 3. Last time his teams played, he had a 60-yard touchdown. And then the other signal high guy has been Arondé Gadsden. So those guys are kind of appealing. I just don't know how much I want to stack them for Herbert because I just don't know what kind of ceiling Herbert has. Do you see like a spot here where this could be more of a push for like a 25-point game for Herbert?
I do, and it all comes down to me is like this team is in playoff mode. We're starting to get to the part of the season where like again, I've spoken to the motivation factor. Like people think that like these professional athletes like need additional reason to go out there and play at peak performance. I don't necessarily think that like the motivation factor is a real thing in professional sports. Like yeah, you played sports before, like you go out there, you get up for a game, but like the moment it starts, like kind of goes out the window. As far as like motivation, things that do matter to me are things like a team playing, fighting for their playoff lives. Something like like for the Lions, for example, like coming off of a loss, like we need to get this offense right. We need to get clicking. Those are the kind of the things that matter to me. So for me, the Chargers kind of fall into that bucket of like, hey, we're still trying to fight to find our identity without our two starting offensive tackles. How are we going to, like, one, we're pushing for the playoffs. How are we going to handle the playoffs if we get there? Like, so this team, I think they still need to figure out, like, we're still trying to make these adjustments. We're still trying to figure out our identity without these key pieces. So for that, against an opponent that they kind of they should have a good idea of like what they're going to see. You mentioned it's a very static defense. For me, that should lead to a like very clear game plan. I'm not going to pretend like I know what that is, but I think within the range of outcomes of that discussion is like, let's go and let's like start attacking the perimeter deep. That's Quentin Johnston. Let's start working our primary like yak guys open. Let's design some things for them. As you mentioned, against cover 3, that's Oronde Gadsden. So I think it's very interesting at least to just say like, I'm on a slate like this, we're going to embrace additional uncertainty. I'm okay saying like, well, we could play some Herbert doubles here. And I think it becomes easier to do that because there is very clear signal where the production would be likeliest to flow. So yeah, I am interested in Herbert with Gadsden and Quentin Johnston. We'll probably see like a fluky, like 2 touchdown game from Keenan Allen or somebody.
Yeah, Keenan Allen game.
Yeah, it's like, damn it, you've been dead for
We'll get a
6
Trey
weeks.
Harris touchdown.
Yeah.
No, but I had Quentin Johnston and Oronde Gadsden kind of already on my board for like tournament stuff, so it makes sense to just if they're going to hit, like bring the quarterback with them.
Right. And this is not something that you would typically think of for like a single entry 3 max type build, but you know me, like on a slate like this, I'll lean into that uncertainty a little bit.
Yeah.
Any upside on the other side here? Any potential chance of being pushed by the Raiders?
It's tough. This team's not playing very good football. Obviously, they fired their offensive coordinator during the week that they gave $6 million to.
Yeah, fantastic. Sign me up for that, man.
Geno Smith feels like we're gonna get like a shoe to drop eventually for him, or maybe Aiden O'Connell plays, gasp Kenny Pickett plays. I don't know. There was a place in the multiverse where Trey Tucker had a really good game on Sunday. That he could have had 4 touchdowns easily.
Yes.
He had 190. He's been the guy since the Jacoby Myers trade. Like it's been very clear, like he's the dude like getting like the shot plays, and obviously Brock Bowers is too. But like Tucker, since the trade, has like been over 20% of the team targets. The mega air yard dude. Like if anyone were to, I think, pop, it would be him. Because the Chargers are good at playing tight ends. Also, the Raiders, and we'll see if maybe this changes with the coordinator change. They're doing something with Brock Bowers that people think is cool, but is generally bad, is they're playing Brock Bowers at wide receiver.
Yeah.
And like, we think it's cool, like a tight end has that versatility, but these tight ends, when they move out, like they're not wide receivers. Like it seems cool in theory, but it allows teams to defend them better. Like you want a guy like Brock Bowers to work in the middle of the field
in space.
In space. So Brock Bowers now, and last week he played 28% of his snaps at just wide receiver out wide. Since returning in week 9, he's a 24% rate of just playing wide receiver. Well, this season, he's only been targeted on 18.4% of his routes out wide for 1.48 yards per out run. Very mild numbers. In the slot, He goes up to a 46% target rate per out run, 3.98 yards per out run. And in the very small sample, he actually is attached in line. He's been targeted on 58% of his routes for 4.5 yards per out run. You want to use him in mismatch zone, like get in the middle of the field. Don't make it easier to defend teams that defend Brock Bowers. And they've kind of really fallen into that trap since the bye. So maybe that changes with the coordinator change. These are things that we have to guesswork, but I don't like it.
Yes. I think both Trey Tucker, and you mentioned his name, and Brock Bowers are interesting, just for the simple fact that, like, again, if we're already playing into the uncertainty on the Chargers side, there is like an outcome. I don't know what the percentage chance of it happening, but there is an outcome where the Raiders kind of push back a little bit just because of how kind of Jekyll and Hyde this Chargers team has been. The big play guy, like you mentioned, is Trey Tucker. The volume and touchdown upside guy would probably be Brock Bowers. So I think both are in consideration if you're turning this into a game stack here. All right, I'll throw it back over to you.
I mean, you got me kind of turning now. I might be starting to add some of these games. Maybe I'll bring back the stat.
Yeah. But these are low percentage chances. But like like this, we kind of have to be okay buying into that uncertainty a little bit here.
Jags, Titans, Raiders, Chargers.
Yeah, right. I mean, we still have. I'll phrase it like this: we still have a 10-game slate. Like, none of these game environments pop on paper, but in a sample size of 10 games, even if the chances of like each individual game like shooting out is relatively slim, we'll say 3 to 5%, that still works out mathematically to a 30 to 50% chance that one of these games does do that. Yeah. So we're flipping a coin here. And I would argue that the chances are greater that we do see something happen. So going back to like our discussion where we open the show, where it's like the field is probably going to be a little bit heavier bias to projections. The field is probably going to be onesie twosies as far as roster construction goes, not knowing where to go for these game environments. That makes me want to kind of lean into game environments and team environment bets at a higher rate. So that's why we're kind of spending the time diagnosing where the likeliest spots for that to happen are. All right. I'll throw it over to you again. You mentioned a few games earlier that you had some interest in. Hit me with another one of those.
Well, we're going to see, like you said, there's going to be some chalk just kind of pushed towards Devon Achane. So he's going to be chalky, but can we build around other things? So if we want to play him still, because we do, I don't think we want to fade him. How can we build unique lineups around him? And that game too offers a little bit of potential. I don't know if you need the full onslaught, because I don't think you need either quarterback. I think people maybe will try to force Tyler Shuck, but I'm worried that Tyler Shuck still on his sample going back from college, and even in the small NFL sample, is like, if you breathe on this dude, it's a problem. It's a huge problem. And even since the trade of Jalen Phillips, the Dolphins are 10th in pressure rate over the past 5 weeks. At home, they're actually 9th in the NFL in pressure rate too. So I think there's some volatility where I'm probably not going to get the Shuck in my quarterback pool, but I think there are some pass catchers here. We'll see what happens with the Olave back stuff, but he's in a good spot. And then Juwan Johnson is in a really good spot here as well against the Miami team that's 30th in yards per target, 29th in touchdown rate allowed to tight ends. And I don't know if you necessarily need either of the running backs that are going to be filling in for Alvin Kamara. And I say running backs because it's Devin Neal and then Taysom Hill. But Taysom Hill's 2,700. I mean, I won't push back if anyone's like, hey, I'm going to play a $2,700 tight end and just hope he scores a touchdown or two. I get it. Because you look at since he's come back to the lineup, he has 6 touches inside of the 10-yard line. So, hey, not going to yuck anyone's Taysom Hill yum. I definitely think he's not healthy, though. He has no lateral agility at all. He can't move sideways. If you watch him, like he's literally like, he reminds me of I made the comp. He reminds me of Oklahoma Blake Bell right now. Like when Blake Bell would come into the game and like it's like this dude's just running. Like it would play like they're gonna snap at him and he's gonna run straight forward. Yeah. That's all he could do because like God bless Taysom Hill for coming back from that injury as soon as he did. But like you could tell like he has no lateral movement whatsoever. Right. And he's not running any routes, so you could tell it's like still a problem because he's not doing any of that fun stuff. We're not having any of the fun Taysom Hill stuff. But I do get it. He's 2,700. You're trying to get a touchdown. Cool. Like I'm not pushed back on that at all. But yeah, I think you could do like Olave, Jalen Waddle, Juwan Johnson. Like those guys, I think are all in play in this game though. Still,
any interest if Darren Waller makes it back. We have Mike McDaniel saying that he is in play to be activated from IR. Got back on the practice field this week. We saw kind of his red zone role, 4 touchdowns in his first 3 games with the team this season. And we're talking about like, how does Devon Achane fail to like put the slate out of reach? It's he doesn't score touchdowns. Is Darren Waller in play for you if he makes it back here?
If you're chasing touchdowns, that's what you 4 end zone targets. He had 10 catches, 4 were touchdowns, caught all of his end zone targets. He had a clear role in the red zone. So you worry maybe about like snap participation stuff, but if you're only chasing touchdowns, I can't really push back on these guys.
Yeah. Right. Before we continue, I do have to mention that Black Friday sale is still on over at 1 Week Season. Head on over to oneweekseason.com. You'll see the banner. Click the banner. That'll get you 80% off of any subscription of your choosing. That is smoking. Go check that out, and that'll take you through the end of the season, which includes the playoffs there. So get that nice gushy 80% off, and you can do so by clicking on the banner over at oneweekseason.com. All righty. You mentioned his name, but Jalen Waddle is interesting to me from the sense of like what he has done with Tyreek Hill out of the lineup this season. Highly interested in some Jalen Waddle, and I think because his price is up at 6.8, he's probably not going to see a lot of ownership here. I'm going to go double check that as I'm talking. You're like, oh god, okay, yeah, he's the second highest owned player on the slate, or wide receiver on the slate. Yeah, perfect.
Wide receiver is real rough this week.
Yeah.
On this slate, I should say, not week in general, because we had good guys that played yesterday.
Yeah, so that kind of makes me a little bit more interested on Darren Waller if we're seeing. I mean, it looks like, and we have to take these projections with a grain of salt here, sitting here on Friday. I typically don't even like to look at ownership projections until Saturday evening, but currently projecting for like Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle to soak up like 60% combined ownership. That might make Waller even more fun for us if he makes it back. All right. We kind of glossed over the Rams and the Panthers. I'm going to break this one down real quick just for the audience, and we'll kind of see if anything emerges here. Like the Jaguars, this Panthers team has taken a clear kind of tributary path from how they opened the season after the kind of midpoint of the season. This is a team hasn't had their bye week, but kind of the middle of the season here, we've seen this offense be something different. They have been a lot more. They have emphasized the run at a much higher rate. They tried to make it work with like Bryce Young. It wasn't working. Very similar to Jacksonville. Now they're just like, we're going to run the football. That sets up a very interesting matchup against the league's best run defense against the Rams here. How do you think they approach it? And then how do you think that kind of influences what the Rams want to do here?
Yeah, I think kind of maybe similarly like when the Rams played the Saints a few weeks ago. Something similar to like that could play out here. Even if they want to run the football, they're probably not going to stop the Rams because they're not going to have Trayvon Moehrig, who's suspended. The JC Horn is in concussion protocol.
The old dick punch.
Yeah, said he was going for the ball, not the balls.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And missing those two guys is just going to be such a problem, especially if they want to do what they do on defense, run all that single high. It's another team that plays just very stock cover 3. They don't ever come out of it. And Stafford is just eviscerated like single high stuff. And the other element we have too is that with the injury to Tyler Higbee, and it could just be a one-off, but with the injury to Tyler Higbee, the Rams did not do the 13 personnel stuff last week. Like they kind of scrapped it. They only use it 10.9% of the time, their lowest rate since week 5. They ran 11 personnel on 71% of their snaps, and it was 80% in the first half of that game while it was competitive. And what that did was finally get their best player back in the field, Puka Nacua. Yeah, he was on the field for 86% of the dropbacks, his highest rate since week 5. Because people like this one made its rounds a little bit, but like he wasn't playing any of the 13 personnel snaps. Yeah, 0 of them. And Puka Nacua this year against cover 3,
47.
What is it? 44% target rate per outrun,
47 against cover 3,
4.2 yards per outrun. Like it's So again, he's expensive, but is a pretty big North Star here for Puka Nacua.
0.94 fantasy points per route run against cover 3 this season. The dude is an animal against cover 3 and single high. And like you mentioned, this Rams team is like, Sean McVay has kind of put, I don't know how to phrase this. Like, he's put the league on notice like throughout his entire coaching tenure, but like he is maintaining and continuing to be like one step ahead of the meta. You mentioned the 13 personnel stuff. What is he doing? He's influencing opposing defenses, and he's saying like, okay, you're going to go heavy, we're going to pass against you. Just the chess match that he's doing. I don't know if we can simply say all of that is like leading up to this like walk the dog exploration we're doing here. I don't know if we can just simply say like in a game the Rams are controlling, we're just going to like lean on our run game. Like that's not like what he is doing. So I think Puka Nacua is probably my preferred pay up option on this entire slate over Achane, over CMC, over some of these other guys that we've talked about, Jonathan Taylor, namely. You tell me that you're going to get Sean McVay offense and his scheme against a static cover 3 defense. I'm highly interested in that, particularly through Puka Nacua. That's my take on it. You have any differing thoughts? Are you at all interested in Davante Adams here?
His splits are significantly worse, but I think if you wanted to play Stafford doubles, I wouldn't really push back on this slate. I would have no problem with it because we do know by hook or crook, Davante Adams getting some end zone targets.
Yes. Yes.
he's up to 22 end zone targets this season. He might threaten his career high touchdowns. 18 is his career high. He's at 12 on the season. He had that statement after the game where he's like, this is the most fun I ever had. I'm like, yeah, dude, because you scored a touchdown every day. It's scoring touchdowns is probably super fun.
It's fun how that works, yeah.
And I do think in tournaments, Kyren Williams becomes interesting. Not only as a leverage play, but maybe even as part as the ensemble, just because if it does play out like the Saints game, so like Sunday, it never made sense to get Kyren Williams involved. And this is why we have faith in Sean McVay. Like he looked at that team, the Bucs team, and like they are a great run defense. They were missing Jamel Dean. They just came out and ran 11 personnel and just threw all over them. I think they had 23 pass attempts in the first half to 4 runs. And that was the game plan. It was but they were never able to, even with a lead, be able to just kind of go and grind Kyren Williams because the Bucs run defense is still good. I do think that will be the case. I keep comping this game to the Saints game a little bit. So in that game, if you go back, that's the game where Kyren Williams, like in the second half, just started like accrue a ton of work and scored touchdowns. He finished with 25 touches in that game. I think we could see a big touch game for Kyren Williams at some point if we're expecting this game to go as implied. So I do think he's on the board as well.
More interest in Kyren paired with Stafford or Davante Adams?
Man, maybe Kyren if you just say it goes all through Puka, but it is scary because they just use Davante Adams in the paint so much. But
yeah,
it is scary. But
we kind of glossed over Stafford a little bit, but this is a guy who's
Stafford's in play.
3 or more touchdowns in 6 of his last 8 games. Come on now. I took Stafford's passing touchdowns over on his season-long prop, which I think was like 24.5. So that's like already hit, but like, this is a guy who's having an MVP type caliber season. So discounting him,
and McVay also is a coach that goes and he'll push the stats for guys.
Oh yeah. He's going to try and get him 40, I think, dude.
Yeah. And because this goes back, like the incentive stuff, McVay's been a big guy on getting guys their incentives and getting guys to milestones. You remember Puka's rookie season, they benched everyone except for Puka to break that rookie receiving record with Carson Wentz. And then he got him out of the game the second that happened. But he's a big milestone guy. He gets guys to his marks. I genuinely do believe at this point of the season, like, they're going to get Stafford this MVP.
Yeah, 100%. You talk about like on a season like this, like 40 is going to look really
he's
nice.
Throwing inside the 5. Like McVay offenses have never thrown at like this rate inside the 5.
Yeah, they're doing that now. I think you can't go wrong kind of stacking up Stafford this week, particularly with this like lack of directional certainty that we talk about. He would probably be my choice for single entry, at least at present.
Agreed.
And you'd have to double him because you want to capture the bulk of those touchdowns. So I think within that context, either Davante Adams or Kyren Williams works pretty well with Puka here.
Yeah, it's almost like you add him. That's why I almost entertain like saying you do just the full onslaught and you try to get all the touchdowns, because if this team has 4 to 5 touchdowns, it might just be all Adams and Kyron.
Yeah.
And then you're still getting the Puka run out where he has like the 12 for 120
Yeah.
on your lineup.
100%.
So
I would not be shocked if this team scored 5 touchdowns this week and it was like Kyron accounts for 2 of them and we still get Stafford throwing for 3 of them. Puka maybe nabs 1 and Devontae gets the other 2. Like that is a valuable run out here. Full on team onslaught. I do not hate at all. Sweet, man. Do you have any other game that you want to touch on real quick, or I guess team that you want to touch on before we get into the hidden hammers portion?
no, I think the field will. I think just Bucks Cardinals is an interesting conversation, anyways, just because we've got so much volatility in play. I assume still Baker might try to play. I don't know if he won't. Like
Yeah.
we're doing this Friday afternoon.
It's another team that's like in playoff mode already.
Yeah, he threw, and it's Baker. It's a non-throwing state, but like I would have, if you would have asked me on Friday last week, I would have said the same thing about Rodgers, and he ended up not going.
Yeah.
So it could be a situation where he doesn't go, but they're at home. I don't know how much they really want to push Teddy Bridgewater, but I think the other side is interesting because the Cardinals have been a team that gamers have just been saying, we're going to play the Cardinals like we did the Bengals with Flacco, right? Like since taking over, Jacoby Brissett has 47, 46, 37, 53, 57, and 58 dropbacks in his games.
It's pretty decent.
Yeah, I mean, you're just getting all this volume, but then we have like a lot of input volatility here because we have Marvin Harrison Jr. projected to come back, and on the other side we have Jamel Dean projected to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things that's happened with Arizona is because now that they're just bad, is when Brissett first took over, we were excited for him to take over Kyler Murray because they were playing a new style of offense. Jacoby Brissett was playing under center. They were playing more play action. That's just gone completely out the window now that they suck. Like he went the first 3 starts, he played under center 46% of his dropbacks. They had a 39% play action rate. Now he's been under center 18.5% of the time in the past 3 weeks, only a 19% play action rate. And that's where we want to attack the Bucks. The Bucks have been a real Jekyll and Hyde team against under center passing and play action passing.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're just gonna get them in a static dropback mode, they could be playing kind of more into where the strengths of the Bucks have been. And then like the on-off splits with Jamel Dean have been incredible this season. So there is, and also I think they might have finally priced Trey McBride to a point where like, you're like both sites.
You got to think about it now.
Like, hold on, man.
Yeah.
Like, this is a tight end. We have to pay this much for a tight end. Like this is what's interesting. So if gamers are going to try to build stacks around the Cardinals, I think it's genuinely the hardest it's ever been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would echo that for sure. What do you have any lean to the pass catchers here for the Cardinals if we were to go here with MHJ coming back?
Geez, I don't know, because Jamel Dean, like when he's been on the field this year, like they just haven't given up any production. With Jamel Dean on the field, the Buccaneers have allowed a 56.6% catch rate, 7 yards per target, and a 2.3% touchdown rate to wide receivers, compared to a 67.6% catch rate, 8.5 yards per target, and 7.6 touchdown rate to wide receivers with him off the field. So like he's a pretty core piece of this. And honestly, the Cardinals almost have the same splits with and without Will Johnson, who could be back. So like there's a lot of moving parts here where I think gamers that don't necessarily follow the injury report or some of the pieces that could be up for this game just look at the recent box scores for the Cardinals and the recent box scores for the Bucks, and they could be completely both different defenses this week.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you.
And then if Teddy Bridgewater plays.
Yeesh. Yeah, I know. I honestly think that Baker is probably, I don't know if I can even say likelier to go, but like I think that he has a good shot of playing. I think with comparing him to Aaron Rodgers, which was a hand injury, I think that influences like his ability to grip the football, obviously, even though it was his
handoff.
Yeah. Handoff stuff like that. Yeah, 100%. So like I think it might be likelier that we see Baker go this week, particularly considering the Buccaneers kind of are, and they maintained that 1-game lead over the Panthers after the Panthers lost, but they're fully in playoff mode, trying to save the season, win the division type thing. So I think we might see Baker go. Yeah, I don't know what that means for us, but like,
yeah.
All right. We kind of went around the slate and poked through, see if there's any spots for potential ceiling. We are now at the point of the show where we give our hidden hammers. I need a graphic or an animation or something when we get to hidden hammers. I think I'll work on that. But do you have any hidden hammers that we did not discuss to this point?
Yeah, I did bring them up during the context of the show that I thought was good ones. We talked about the Steelers running backs. Were on my board. Jalen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell. We talked about Quentin Johnston. You brought him up, and he was on my list for hidden hammer. I brought up DK and Cam Ward as hidden hammers. A couple other gross ones in play. Well, I don't think this one's necessarily a gross one, but I think Kenneth Walker is still in play amongst the guys that we talked about. Mike McDonald was kind of true to his word that they were going to give Kenneth Walker a larger workload, played a season high snaps. He had a season high backfield share. We did see still Zach Charbonnet score a touchdown, unfortunately, but
classic.
Yep. We're getting the Vikings though on the road with Max Brosmer starting in Seattle. Like nightmare, just a nightmare spot to give this dude his first career start. Like,
I look at, again, I don't like looking at ownership this early, but like, why is Mac Brosmer going to be one of the chalkiest quarterbacks of the season this week? Like, don't play Brosmer, dude. You want to get crazy? Like, go somewhere else, man.
Yeah, just play Cam Ward. Like,
yeah. I like that. Dude, I don't know. I don't know what to say about it.
And again, it didn't work out last week, but I still think all the stuff was there. And again, maybe it just never works out. But again, there's still massive signal in this matchup for Adonai Mitchell. I know, like he's turning into like the Voldemort of like the years, like you don't speak about him. But so his first game of the Jets, that Thursday night game, he was on the field for 64% of the dropbacks. And then last week he went up to an 85% rate, like getting another full week of practice. He earned targets again, 24% of his targets. He had 182 air yards. Maybe they're called prayer yards with him, like the Trey Tucker thing. Like there's prayer yards. But on the very small sample, though, because people think get back to John Mechie, but John Mechie is all like he's averaging 4.5 air yards per target. And the single high stuff favors these guys like the Alec Pierces, the Trey Tuckers, the Adonai Mitchell. Well, the Falcons are another big single high cover 3 team. And the very small sample we have with Adonai Mitchell and Tyrod Taylor, 25% target rate against single high. So like he's going to have a chance for shot plays. And against we're trying to find just dudes with the upside opportunity on the slate. So I know he is fantasy Voldemort, but he's in play again, I think.
I love that shout, man. The metrics, and we've done this a couple of times with like guys like Saquon Barkley, and at some point, like that dam has to break. Like these guys are like getting open in the split that we expect. At some point, like it's gonna hit, and when it does, it's gonna hit hard. I love the Adonai Mitchell shout. He was actually one of the guys I wanted to bring up. Much prefer him to his teammate in John Mechie. Yeah, dude. At some point, like it's gonna happen. I want to be there when it happens. Really, I don't have any others to add. I wanted to talk about Chimera DK. We already did. I wanted to talk about Travis Etienne. We already did. I wanted to talk about. Actually, I'll add one. This is probably way grosser than it has to be on this slate, but just because I think that the Texans have a better chance to control this game environment that the field is likely to think. I'll just add Woody Marks as like a complete vomit, like hidden hammer. 16, 18, 14 carries his last 3 times out. You add on targets, he's at 17, 19, and 17 opportunities over the last 3 games. And if the Texans are controlling this game with their defense, I think he might have some upside here.
And Stroud coming back, I think is better for Marks because, and again, we're only working with small sample stuff, but
right.
Davis Mills only threw to the running backs 8.9% of the time, while Stroud was in, he threw the running back 16.2% of the time. So we might see some catches kind of come back for Woody Marks.
100% with you there. That's all I got, man. Do you have any parting shots here? We're giving back some time that we stole last week.
No, I mean, actually talking through this with you like out loud, like talking through some stuff, it kind of made me feel not better about the context slate, but like more bullish on saying, hey, let's take some swings on these games that maybe I was just focused on maybe the more negativity side. Like you brought up Raiders Chargers, and like I came out like with that, like, you know, that it would make sense to just, if I was already on Quentin Johnson and Gadsden, you add Herbert, you add Trey Tucker, see what the hell happens. You know, we
Yeah,
got
let's
Jags,
just see,
Titans.
man. Let's see.
And
This
then
this is 100% like a close the laptop slate. You say that a
oh god,
lot.
dude.
Like it's just go watch the games, man. Have fun. Let's put our lineups in the best position to leverage some potential upside in EV, and then let's just go watch the games.
Yeah, let's go watch the game, see what
Yeah.
happens. Yeah, so yeah, talking with you out loud, like this is why we do the show, man. It's fun to have that.
Let's go. Best of luck to you guys on this holiday weekend. He is Rich. You know where to find him over at Sharp Football Analysis. I am Hilow over at oneweekseason.com. Best of luck to you all, and we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards. Peace.
1 week season.